What's going on? So this isn't going to be really a book review because that's not really what this book is about, but this has to be on your to-do list this year. Yes, it's a large book. There's around 400, just under 400 pages, and it's one of my favorite people. I invested in this company, Tesla, in 2009, when it was nowhere near where it is right now. SpaceX was almost collapsing. They just had 2 failed rocket attempts, and Elon was in his lowest point. I think he was also going through a divorce. It was a total mess for the guy. And on the last day, before he was almost not going to be able to make overhead, he pulls through financing from a private investor. And it's like, that's just one of his stories. And this book is packed with it. Elon Musk, who obviously, unless you're living under a rock, you obviously know who he is: SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City. And by the time this is filmed, Solar City and Tesla will probably have been joined. He is a guy, first of all, he was born in South Africa, had a rough childhood, moved to Canada. His ultimate goal was to come to the United States. So that in of itself, you have to have gratitude if you live in the United States. This is a guy, he's not from the country. He already has $3 billion businesses, but he's also revolutionized 2, probably 3 actual industries that are established, that he's brand new to. So read the book. I'll give you 3 takeaways. Number 1 is how hard he works. From a young age, he started PayPal, and it has the entire history about PayPal, which was, they called it X. And the reason they called it X is because at the time, this was like 97, 98, right around there, when the internet, the internet is nowhere near it was then. Like, it was just probably Google, eBay, and a couple other companies that were around, and PayPal was essentially saying banking needs to be online. He saw banking that, like, why don't I just wire this across the thing called the internet? Banks didn't want to do it because they obviously had security issues, or security concerns, not security issues. And then Elon comes in and completely revolutionizes it. There's obviously this whole controversy behind it with him and another guy, which they talk about in the book. So number 1 is how hard he works. He never stops working. Number 2 is what he expects of others. And you heard this from Steve Jobs, is that Steve Jobs was a guy that he just said, oh, you can do this in 6 months? Let's do it next week. You want this done in 5 years? We'll do it next year. In other words, his expectations, you tell me a deadline, and this is the funny thing is, they would actually buffer in time, so they would know that Steve Jobs would have it and a little bit more. So they would actually buffer in time knowing that he was going to do that. Same thing with Elon Musk. So Steve Jobs got smart and he said, okay, no, there's no way that's going to take 6 years or 6 months. We're going to do it within 2 months. And he expected a lot. And guess what? Same thing in this book, same thing with Elon Musk, same thing with all the people in SpaceX, at SpaceX and Tesla, is that they're living into that. He has these ridiculous, he's pushed the needle so far. I don't think there's anyone in the world that has pushed the needle so far in the direction, technologically speaking, towards just a clean energy, solar panels on cars, sidewalks, on obviously buildings. But literally areas that you're not even going to think about that are going to be completely self-driving. We're going to be on Mars. He's going to have a self-sustaining colony on Mars. Like, that's happening. He already said that he's going to be he wants to be the first one that colonizes Mars, but then he thought about it. He's like, well, maybe if I die, then what about Tesla and SpaceX? So he wants to build the companies. So it's the same thing with Apple. Steve Jobs died. It's like he already had the iPad and the iWatch. I think it's the iWatch, Apple Watch, already in the works. It's the same thing with Elon. He wants to have SpaceX and Solar City and Tesla already working autonomously, so in case something happens to him, his companies will live beyond him. Not only that, he also, with Tesla, he's open sourced Tesla. So other companies can go in, the reason I'm getting excited is because when you read the book, you notice how archaic the automobile industry is, how archaic the launching satellites, having sustaining life on other planets. How the United States government, they also talk about Lockheed Martin, who's been literally the only rocket provider for satellites for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, in the Russians. It's like charging 8 times what SpaceX is able to charge. They've completely revolutionized how much it costs reusing rockets, which was unheard of. It's like throwing away a plane after landing at JFK or LAX. It's like, okay, you're done. Throw the plane away. And it's the same thing with shuttles, is that they would just toss it away. That's why it was so expensive. Because once they're done, they would have to build a new one. That's insane. That's insane. But that's how it was until Elon came around. So, and really the third thing is that you really get a look to him as a human. So, you know, obviously how hard he works, the expectations of others, and the humanizing of Elon. You know, obviously people, Tony Stark and whatever, and you know what, to be honest, for me, you look at the guy, he just has this mindset that anything is possible, and we're gonna do it. And we're gonna do it sooner, and we're gonna do it cheaper. So his mindset is freakish, to be honest. And I hope there's another one like Elon, because he's moving it so far forward that, to be honest, people are gonna look back at Earth and be like, wow, you actually thought that was impossible? Same thing with space flight when it first came around with the Wright brothers, or actual cars and everything else. So anyway, it was supposed to be a book recommendation instead of a book review, but anyway, pick this up. It is a longer read. It's not going to take you a weekend, and you're going to want to absorb all of it, but make it your monthly goal to crush that book. And anyway, what are your thoughts on the book? Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you read it? What are your thoughts on Elon? I actually was a huge proponent of everything that he's been doing. People doubted him, and you read that in the book. And for all the people that doubted him, all the money that he almost failed on all the companies at once. So, and he went through multiple divorces. So it's like he has got a lot of things going on, and he's pulled through. He's resilient. So anyway, leave your comments below. Everything is linked below. By everything, I mean just the book. And yes, it's obviously affiliated with Amazon, so there's like a couple pennies that come by my way if you click the link. So have an awesome day. Leave your comments below. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Talk to you soon.